I would like to give the floor to Arlette Verploeg-Chabot, the Chief of Entrepreneurship Development at the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development.
Okay, thank you, Julia. And I also like to extend, as Julia said, a warm welcome to all of you. Well, actually, Julia introduced me, but my name is Arlette Verploeg, and I head the work on entrepreneurship development at UNCTAD. So from Geneva, welcome to the session on the circular economy for SDGs, inspiring transformations towards sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions. A typical long title that often we're used to at the UN, but that's really captures well the 75 minutes discussion we're going to have. And as UNCTAD, we're very happy to team up for this session with AlterContacts. So as you may have seen, we're part of a larger setting in the form of the 2024 Partnership Forum of ECOSOC, and our conversation will last over 75 minutes and will evolve around how we can reinforce the 2030 agenda and eradicate poverty in times of multiple crises and the effective delivery of sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions, the theme of this year's Partnership Forum. We will hear new ideas, expectations, and achievements with forward-looking actions that can support the delivery of the SDGs and how to deal with challenges. Now, main outcomes of this session will be fed into the UN high-level political forum, of which, in relation to our topic, goals 13 on climate action and 17 on partnerships are key. So, talking about circular economy for SDGs, why is the circular economy so important? Why should businesses adopt this model? Why should policymakers include it in their national plans? And finally, what can they do, the policymakers, to facilitate a circular economy? To start with what's important, well, in order to meet our daily needs, today we already need 1.75 Earths. And I say it in plural, which will even become 3 by 2050 if we continue the same way. And this is not sustainable. We need to find ways that we can keep products, materials, including raw ones, in a cycle for as long as possible. And this can be done only by further strengthening the circular economy, which, as I just explained, goes well beyond recycling alone. So what does the world need to embrace a circular economy? UNCTAD published a report 1 month ago, and we considered that there are 3 key elements. There is, and this covers a multi-stakeholder approach, a change of mindset and innovation, and access to funding. Now, from a business perspective, the circular economy brings along many new opportunities. For instance, as OECD figures show, a transition to a circular economy could unlock up to $4.5 trillion, and according to the ILO, create more than 7 million jobs globally by 2030. But it's not easy for products, materials, and raw materials to remain in a cycle as long as possible. Everybody involved in a supply chain needs to have adopted circular economy principles. From the design stage up until the recycling, a plan needs to be available, possibly with a digital product passport, as the EU is hinting towards. Now, my colleague Lorenzo Tusini will say more about the need to work together and through an entire supply chain. Coming to enterprises, in collaboration with research institutions and universities, they can play an important role in triggering the transformation towards circularity. They are agents of innovation, always on the outlook for solutions to problems, be it at community or environmental level, and willing to take risks. A real mindset change is needed for circularity to succeed, be it at the design, production, or consumption level, which will be further elaborated during the second topical discussion on innovation introduced by my colleague Saya Roista. Now, a transition to the circular economy cannot be done alone. It is strongly connected to the energy transition, reinforcement of biodiversity, and climate change. By its complexity and the major innovations that are needed, access to finance is crucial. And yet this is a major hurdle for entrepreneurs and R&D, as my colleague José Sanchez will explain during the third discussion round. So what can policymakers do? I mentioned we published a report last month, and in it we describe a number of policy options that can foster an entrepreneurial ecosystem in favor of a circular economy. It's based on a methodology we use to help governments design national entrepreneurship strategies. And here I would like to mention a few. Firstly, we believe that it's important that regulations are envisaged that set technical standards and specifications of circular activities, as well as create incentives. And here we can think of circular guidelines for specific sectors and, for example, lower rates for repair services and circular business models. Second point is know-how for the introduction of circular methods is very important, as well as the building and upgrading of capacities. Knowledge exchange platforms can be created to facilitate information sharing. Educational programs can include circular economy principles and training. Now, on the third point, inter-firms networks can be encouraged to facilitate the diffusion of technologies and innovation. R&D can be promoted to spur entrepreneurial innovation, and high-level expertise can be built. On the point number 4, circular business models and circular innovation are to be included in public funds, public credit guarantee schemes, and blended finance. As a last point, circularity can be further made visible through campaigns and educational curricula, and networking can be encouraged by organizing trade fairs, circular entrepreneurship associations, and more. And even to that last point, having a meeting like this where we're all together with likely activities you are sharing and messages we can bring forward to the high-level political forum is one of such things of awareness raising. Now, a lot waits ahead of us, and with this introduction to the theme of this session, I look forward to listening to the exchange of ideas and the work that is carried out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arlette. It is really a wonderful introduction to what we're going to discuss today with the practical examples from many different parts of the world. From our side, I would also like to welcome the participants of this event. And it is a big honor for Think Tank AlterContacts to organize this side event together with UNCTAD, and to be part of the ECOSOC Partnership Forum 2024. Today, we are going to hear many inspiring examples of how the circular economy helps in achieving sustainable development goals. We're also going to introduce a new SDG partnership we are beginning with partners from all over the world and from all types of organizations, Kilometre Circular. But before that, I would just like to say a few words about what one might call a predecessor, the initiative of Mother Earth. It was more of a research and a field research exercise that the team of AlterContacts undertook between 2021 and 2023. The idea was to explore how can we revive and repopulate rural areas? How can we create economic and educational opportunities there? And ultimately, how can we create new type of rural, sustainable, self-sufficient settlements? What I would like to share from the insights we got is that in order to achieve any kind of change nowadays, we just have to join forces with others. There's so many amazing undertakings in circular economy all over the world, and yet sometimes two initiatives don't know about each other being in the same town. So as part of the practices of the Think Tank AlterContacts, we always bring on board all organizations that are interested in taking part. We discover what has already been done, and we try to build on that together. We really include everybody in the brainstorming process. And one of the memorable examples was the event we hosted with in the local village school in the region of Galicia in Spain. We asked 260 children between the ages of 3 and 12 years old what they love about their village and what ideas they have for it. The children were extremely enthusiastic and proud to share their opinions and be heard. although many of them could only express it through drawings. What is remarkable is that the ideas that these children have for the future of their village are similar to what experts with decades of experience are proposing for rural development. So the children who live there already know what the future should look like, and it is in our hands to enable them to make it happen. So of course, I could talk much more about this topic, but we have many great examples today from our speakers. So I'm just going to thank you once again for joining this event and encourage you to send your questions and your examples of your practical examples of circular economy initiatives into the chat. Feel free to add the links as well. We hope that as a result of this event, many more people will be inspired to undertake new SDG actions together. So use the chat, connect, exchange contacts, and enjoy this event. With this, I would like to give the floor to Lorenzo Tosini, the Program Officer in the Division on Investment and Enterprise of UNCTAD. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Hello, everyone. I'd like to introduce a little bit the first of the three areas that we suggested in our publication, as Arlette mentioned, which is the need of having partnerships and a multi-stakeholder approach in order to foster and promote circularity and circular business models. The concept of circular economy is often reduced to recycling and waste management. So you look at the end of a product. But circular innovations can take form in a much broader framework if you look at models and processes that consider a product life cycle from a different perspective. Innovative approaches include circular design and product life extension, waste management and resource recovery, how you optimize the use of goods through service-based and sharing business models, and using bio-based inputs. You can incorporate circularity into how a product or a service is designed, how inputs are sourced, or materials are chosen. Parts and elements of a product should then be easily reused, disassembled, and remanufactured. In this way, circularity can relieve pressure on natural ecosystems and reduce dependence on polluting and unsustainable production processes. Creating circular business models that incorporate these concepts at the design stage requires setting standards and technical specifications, as well as the right mix of incentives. This is one of the key recommendations that we have to policymakers. Entrepreneurial ecosystems that see circularity as an opportunity need the active participation of governments, businesses, consumers, and academia. Multi-stakeholder collaboration is therefore key. A collaborative approach of public and private sector players can effectively push toward the transition from linear to circular business models. Collaboration is essential to identify bottlenecks, but also opportunities, which can be addressed and nurtured with regulations, standards, and schemes that encourage entrepreneurs to innovate and adapt their business models. Partnerships among various stakeholders are fundamental to ensure coherence and complementarity across policies. I look forward to hearing from our distinguished speakers about how multi-stakeholder initiatives and networks can promote circularity in different settings and economic contexts, thus helping member states achieve specific targets of the 2030 agenda. It's my pleasure now to give the floor to Massimo, who will be moderating the session and introduce the speakers. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Lorenzo, for setting the scene and giving us such a comprehensive picture. Thank you, Arlette, as well, and Julia, the introduction and the explanation. And without further ado, I will just go directly into the first of our speakers, who is also the leader of Biocean Solution Hub and the initiative of the Kilometro Circular, or KMC Square, which is transforming the urban, rural, and coastal area into living labs for blue and circular economy with a focus on sustainability and open innovation. So I give the word to Pedro Fernández Carrasco, professor from the University of Madrid.
Thank you very much, Maximo, Julia. Thank you very much for to all of you, all the people that are here, the panelists. Well, I will to start to present this living labs, circular kilometers, blue circular kilometers. The idea, it was a very simple thoughts or ideas, but very strong, with a lot of power. Is first how we run or go to the way from abundance to prosperity. We have the clear idea that everywhere in the world there is abundance. It is different abundance in any place, but this abundance, if we have the talents and we have the intelligence and the God willing, we can transform this in wealthy. And also this wealthy that is not enough for us has to be transformed in prosperity for everybody. This prosperity is in a context. In this case, we are in the context of sustainable development goals. And this is the idea, to go together to this path, to run together this path, beginning for a start, a small change. This small change is located in many places around the world, and this is the idea from the beginning of how to start these places. We call a circular kilometer, a place symbolic 1/3, 1 square kilometer, where we can develop this way of thinking, this powerful way of thinking, that we are able with the people of this place and connect it with another concept that for us is very important and very powerful. This is open innovation. As so many times Maximo and Julia has hearing about this from me, that this is always more talent outside of any organization than inside only for a statistic. There are so many people around the world that they are so clever, so good people, and why not to use these talents to help these areas to grow in a prosper way and to foster the change with this beginning of this small step. Well, we look for expert, we put together expert, we found a lot of talent, a lot of challenge, of course, and the main thing is sharing, foster this networking of so talented people that I saw here. I don't want to mention anyone, but I see many familiar faces. That's thank you so much for believing in this idea of the Kilometro Circular, and I'm sure that it will grow in a very good way. Thanks because the people from outside of the network is so talents that want to become part of the network and to follow in this context, a right to prosperity and beyond in this context of sustainable development goals and the good for everybody without leave anyone behind. Basically, this is the idea of how it starts. We start with samples, and we tested these samples in different places around the world. It is worked well with the good willing of the people, because it's starting from the ground up, and now it's taking another dimension. And well, I think that you will see the very interesting thing is to know about for direct hands for the people that they are in their own circular kilometer and living lab, because this is for live. This is not for theoretical. It of course has a theoretical place and an university, and also there is theory in the base. But it's for living the change. We are here for living the change and for enjoy. That is joy, peace, and and gratitude. Gratitude is the the main word related with this circular kilometer. We are thankful for so many people that are pushing this idea. Thank you to Massimo. Thank you to Julia, to all of you that I cannot mention all of you. Thank you very much. I give the floor for the next one. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Always very inspiring. It's always a pleasure and very inspiring speaking with you and hearing how you position and present this. I wanted to reinstate for a moment that feel free to use the chat to start feeding either questions or ideas or suggestions or cases of circular economy, because all of these will be captured in the report that will then be distributed to all participants and also delivered back to UNCTAD. For those who have artificial intelligence assistants, do not worry, you do not need it, because we are going to anyway send the link to the recording and all the transcript. So let's move to a different place of the planet, and we find Andres Romero. Andres is an economic consultant at Mentu. Mentu Aliados is a social laboratory focused on formalization and sustainability. He is part of the team that is creating or studying the Kilómetro Circular Living Lab of La Chacarita in Paraguay, which is a very interesting case. Andres, are you there?
Yes, good morning, everyone from this side of the world. I'm from Paraguay, and I'm excited to share with you a story of resilience. And Paraguay is a country with many opportunities and challenges regarding inequality. The equity gaps are significant, and much of the population live in informality, both geospatially and economically. The country faces the challenge of communities living in settlements due to social exclusion. These people are also outside the formal economic system and are forced to make a living from waste, thus resorting to recycling as a means of subsistence. A good example is the Chacarita neighborhood, as you can see in my background, where we carry out the Kilómetro Circular project, located paradoxically in the oldest neighborhood of the city, located in the wetlands of the Paraguay River in Asunción. This neighborhood is home to over 12,000 people and is prone to flooding due to its proximity to the river. Being an informal settlement, it lacks of basic services such as garbage collection, resulting in the accumulation of waste from the city during rains. And in this context, Mentu conducts a social laboratory that brings together academia, private sectors, organizations, and international agencies. The goal is to work in two fronts: entrepreneurship and circular economy, which are closely linked in this community. Initiatives related to renewable energies are promoted, such as the use of solar panels to compensate the lack of legal electrical connections, as well as support of the formalization of business in this neighborhood. In fact, the year-end corporate gift from our consultancy came from an enterprise that managed to formalize in the last year with the effort of Mentu. Furthermore, the waste that arises with each rain plus its own waste becomes raw material for the neighborhood, which recycles and sells it. This makes Asunción and the country as a whole a place with high levels of recycling, despite of the lack of specific regulations. Paraguay has a rate of collected packaging for recycling of 43%, which is higher than other countries in the region and similar to developed countries such as Hungary and Norway. The interesting aspect of this social laboratory is the community openness to experimenting with any innovation. No matter how challenging, if it improves their quality of life, it's a community with great experience and trajectory in citizen organization. And thank you very much. If you're interested in learning more, feel free to visit Mentu's LinkedIn page for further insights.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andres. And if I am not mistaken, what I see in your background is, if I remember the photos from the satellite, that is precisely the zone of La Chacarita and Costanera, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, fantastic. I am sure there will be a few comments and things coming up and people interested in knowing more about it. Oh, nice. This is inside of the neighborhood.
This is also the Chacarita neighborhood. So you can see it's a very special place for us, a very nice neighborhood.
Wow, with this beautiful image, let's get into the topic of, because it's actually a good image for that. Let's get into the topic of changing the mindset. Changing the mindset, as Arlette explained, this is probably one of the most important things that we need to have in mind. And for this, we have Zarya Wojcia, which is the Enterprise Development Officer at UNCTAD, as a communication strategist, project coordinator. And well, she's going to give us she's going to tell us about the importance of mindset change in the context of circular economy and entrepreneurship. Zarya, are you there?
I am, and thank you for the lovely introduction, Massimo. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Like Massimo said, my name is Zarya Wojcia, and I'm part of the UNCTAD team here present. And I work also on startup development in my organization. And this is a place where mindset change and innovation are very closely interlinked. In my role, I also explore a shift that can transform the future of business and entrepreneurship. And this is the transition to the circular economy. We see circularity as a mindset, a way of thinking that challenges the status quo. It's about seeing problems as opportunities and how embracing the circular mindset helps with that. It matters because our planet is facing serious environmental challenge. Circular entrepreneurship becomes necessary, a way for businesses to grow while contributing to a sustainable future and proving that profitability and environmental responsibility can coexist side by side. So I would like to highlight two main points. First is the circular education. Understanding circular principles is key, and not just for industry giants, but also for businesses of all sizes. It's about practical, sustainable business practices that can be implemented from small local enterprises to global corporations. And second is the business innovation. Circular practices demand innovation. Entrepreneurs, especially startups, are reshaping industries through innovative business models and reimagining the whole production processes. So if we look at the education first, circular practices require a shift in mindset. And this isn't just about, this isn't about adopting a new trend. It's about fundamentally rethinking how we approach business and how we consume. Take the manufacturing industry, for instance. Circular education here involves understanding sustainable production methods, resource efficiency, and waste reduction. Then incubators, accelerators, and business development centers can also serve as catalysts for circular education because they can provide startups and other entrepreneurs with the guidance, resources, and connections to integrate these sustainable practices. A circular-focused accelerator then might offer training modules on resource optimization, circular design thinking, and eco-friendly manufacturing processes. Entrepreneurs then benefit not only from formal education, but also from practical insights and an exchange of ideas and experiences shared by their peers within the ecosystem. So as I'm on the topic of entrepreneurs, we say they're also a leading part in driving innovation. Innovation in business models is a cornerstone of the circular economy. Circular businesses are reimagining the traditional linear approach. They are exploring models where products are designed for longevity and recyclability. Consider startups in the fashion industry that are shifting from the fast fashion model to circular fashion, by what I mean extending the life of clothing, reducing waste, and creating a more sustainable industry. This is innovation in action, solving real-world problems and creating a positive change. Entrepreneurs also understand the power of consumer awareness and behavioral shifts. They are not just selling products, they are conveying a sustainable ethos. Startups, especially those in the collaborative economy, are encouraging consumers to move from ownership to access. This shift in behavior from owning a product to sharing and renting has deep implications for resource consumption. So entrepreneurs have the ability to shape not just markets, but also the mindsets of consumers. So the transition to a circular economy is not just a shift in a business practice, we say. It's a path to sustainability through innovation. And as circularity becomes more widely known, and we see entrepreneurs reshaping industries through innovative business models, it becomes more clear that the circular mindset is a great tool to solve many of the world problems. Through the collaborative efforts of incubators, accelerators, and visionary entrepreneurs, now is the time to not only reimagine the way we do business, but also to inspire the bigger social shift towards a more sustainable and responsible future. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for this contribution. I'm sure everybody has enjoyed it, and always very professional and very complete as we are used to hear you. And I'd like to pass the ball to Dr. Shelley Versey. I hope she is online because I didn't see when she joined. Dr. Versey is a social psychologist and epidemiologist. Her field of studies is around the impact of changing places on an aging society. She examines land and zoning policies alongside community-level factors, such as built environments, social networks, and neighborhoods that contribute to the outcomes of aging. And in particular, she will briefly introduce us the new Living Lab, Kilometro Circular, in the Mott Haven Port Morris waterfront of the Bronx in New York. Dr. Versey?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Massimo. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. I am an associate professor at Fordham University here in the Bronx, and I wanted to speak a bit about the work that our Living Lab is doing and thinking about in relation to connecting both rural and urban agriculture with the idea of a circular economy in the midst of a changing climate. The huge increase in global food production in recent decades has come at a high cost for the environment, as we know. The current food system is not working. Industrial farming has turned agriculture into a substantial source of greenhouse gas emissions and pollution, and is driving biodiversity loss. So although large-scale farming has managed largely to meet the demands of a growing global population by making great strides in productivity, this efficiency-oriented approach to food production has important side effects, including climate change, pollution, waste generation, and human health impacts that are most often felt by those in the center of urban economies. What's more, a third of all food never makes it to the plate. It is wasted. We need a new model that feeds the world healthy food and supports local farmers and producers while allowing nature to thrive. Essentially, we need a circular economy for food. This means shifting to a system in which food production regenerates nature and where food is grown locally alongside where people are living, where appropriate. It means making the most of food, eliminating food wastes, and designing and marketing healthier food products, leveraging lower impact, upcycled, and diverse ingredient types. Given that 80% of all food will be consumed in cities by 2050 and around 40% of cropland is in peri-urban areas, cities are critically important in sparking the shift towards a system fit for the long term. City governments, particularly large global city governments like New York City have significant purchasing power that can be leveraged to nudge food systems in the right direction. They have the authority to convene value chain actors alongside policy levers to affect change. And in densely populated areas, citizens often live alongside retailers and service providers and are in close proximity, making new types of business models possible, from hydroponic farms on rooftops to menu design using last-minute surpluses and food rescue and organic waste reuse for livestock feed. For these and other reasons, cities are uniquely positioned to catalyze a wider shift to the circular economy. They are drivers of change. To that end, my lab is focused on emerging, and as was just mentioned, innovative strategies in the South Bronx to better understand how such models and approaches can both feed local communities and support environmental sustainability writ large. In a local context, although the city of New York has explored circularity broadly, the potential is not fully realized. A snapshot of the evolving South Bronx system can also be a useful tool in developing cohesive action across the city and other boroughs. In addition to the network of external stakeholders involved in the food system, food can span a series of departments and sectors, from public health to schools and education, waste and green infrastructure, which are often, especially in large cities like New York, operating in silos and competing for scarce city funding. So as it touches on several different policy areas, friction and contradiction often does emerge. This is where our lab is focused, really working with communities and helping them to advocate for some of these strategies that are happening on a local level. Approaching change through a holistic systemic lens, consulting all stakeholders and departments to co-create plans can ensure that policies are collaborative and coherent from the outset. I hope to have some exciting findings to share with you as we continue this important work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that you could make it. I know that you have a very tight schedule, so I really appreciate that you took the time to participate. And as questions come up, because there might be questions that come up later on, we will forward them to you, and then eventually there might be also people who want to connect, of course, because the topic is interesting, the location is interesting. Okay, so let's pass the ball to Ellen Giron from 50 Shades Greener. She specializes in education and content development, holds an undergraduate and master's degree in zoology and sustainable development. And she's currently developing the content for a diploma on nature-based solutions to waste management. So Ellen, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Massimo. And it's amazing to have this opportunity. So thank you very much. So yeah, I just want to speak a bit about nature-based solutions, a bit about the diploma. So I want to bring to your attention to the transformative potential of nature-based solutions within the framework of the circular economy. As we discuss waste management, let's consider nature as a source of inspiration, a teacher from whom we can learn invaluable lessons. In the web of life, there is no concept of waste. Everything serves a purpose and everything is interconnected, where what might appear as waste to one organism becomes a valuable resource for another. By embracing this perspective and understanding nature's harmony, we can revitalize our approach to waste management. Our current system often treats waste as something to be discarded. Instead, we should view waste as an opportunity, echoing the resilience of natural systems where nothing is wasted and everything finds a purpose. In the circular economy, minimizing waste is the key to unlocking our potential for a thriving and harmonious coexistence. Yet, adopting a circular approach isn't just about redesigning systems. It requires a profound shift in mindset and behavior, as we've already discussed throughout this webinar. Without changes in how individuals and businesses behave, our efforts to mimic nature's waste processes won't be enough to bring about the essential overall change. Education becomes pivotal to this, not just for sustainability professionals, but for everyone at all levels of society. Understanding our impact and influence change towards a circular system should be a shared responsibility. And that kind of links us to then the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the SDGs. They provide a valuable framework for understanding the challenges our world faces. Education, as emphasized in SDG 4, plays a crucial role not only in raising awareness, but also in driving action. By integrating circular economy principles into education at all levels, we can foster a collective understanding of our environmental impact and empower individuals to contribute meaningfully towards achieving multiple SDGs, including those related to responsible consumption and production, which is SDG 12, climate action, which is SDG 13, life below water, which is SDG 14, and life on land, which is 15. And lastly, this emphasis on education is why programs like the Circular Kilometre are so vital. Our collaboration at 50 Shades Greener involves developing the third diploma of this course, focusing on nature-based solutions in the context of circular economy and waste management. Throughout this diploma, we delve into the significance of addressing challenges throughout nature, not as abstract concepts, but as guiding principles inspiring us to create a future where waste transformation into a resource, echoing the wisdom of the natural resource, or of the natural world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ellen.
Thank you.
We're looking forward also to see the content of this diploma that I know is coming up very, very soon. These diplomas are starting in March, so yeah, we'll see. I just want to mention, because I see that some comments and questions are beginning to come up in the chat. I saw from Alberto Cottica, I saw something from Javier, from Nicolas, and I know there are a few out there that were like, we are going to have, since the time is a little bit too tight for hosting the Q&A, we are going to have a post extension right after the end of the event, where everybody can connect with everybody, and there will be breakout rooms and so on. So there's actually the opportunity to have a conversation with the panelists and between participants. And let's pass now to Elisa Pozo Menendez, which I see you're online, architect, PhD architect and entrepreneur, specialized in sustainability, health and aging in urban environment. She's currently developing the content for another diploma in circular economy in urban environments, precisely in urban environments design. So, Elisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Massimo, for the introduction. Just to focus, my passion is to understand, in fact, the relationship between our environment and our health, and both physically and psychological, and how to design a better plan for everybody. So I would like to draw the attention to the person-centered approach in territorial and urban planning. Every action we take, we should yield an outcome and benefit for people. And in this context, my approach involves working with individuals with functional diversity or older people, and primarily concentrating on creating healthy environments and designs. By empathizing and collaborating with these groups, we can effectively address challenges and optimize resources, leading to more positive impacts. And after all, we are all going to get older, so this perspective is also working for ourselves in the future. This entails incorporating care also into the territorial planning and design to enhance the quality of life for individuals with dependencies, as well as their families, caregivers, and broader social communities. From this perspective, inclusive methodologies are also part of the circular approach, maximizing opportunities for growth and improving the quality of life for the society as a whole. And working in these interdisciplinary teams that embrace this diversity is a key quality in our social ecosystem. And this requires also a redesign of the urban environments to create spaces that in fact promote social interaction inclusively. I understand this circular economy as the optimization and improvement of the local ecosystem from this integrated perspective, including care. And care systems face significant challenges today, alongside others such as climate change or the carbonization. However, introducing this care perspective into design and planning recognizes also that everyone is dependent on others in some way, and additionally is also considering that care is typically provided by women, both formally and informally, and underscores the substantial impact of this perspective has globally. Creating these synergies and networks allows us to strengthen the social cohesion of a territory, a valuable resource that fosters a sense of belonging also to a community and its surrounding environment. So when we talk about the circular economy in urban environments, our focus also extends beyond this material or decarbonization processes, and we also contemplate urban regeneration and revitalization, envisioning cities as an innovation hub with a primary focus on enhancing the quality of life and urban settlements. Thank you very much.
Wow, quite an interesting point of view and of how we are going to deal with the urbans. But of course, that's an incredibly big topic as well. And I see in the chat things are beginning to come up. By the way, there was something related to design, and on the topic of design precisely, we have Rui Alberto Battista da Luz, which is coordinator of the Erasmus Plus at the German Federal Association for Sustainability. He's also developing a content for another diplomat in circular design and eco-design. So the circular product design and eco-design is quite interesting because it comes ad hoc with some of the questions that were popping up on the chat. Rui, are you there?
Thank you very much, Massimo. Hello, everyone. It's truly an honor to stand before you today and emphasize the transformative power of education in reshaping the way we think and act. Specifically, I want to shed light on its pivotal role in fostering sustainable practices and nurturing a mindset geared towards positive change. We often hear about the importance of creating awareness, and indeed it's a crucial first step. However, true lasting change comes when we build strong educational foundations. It's not just about knowing, it's about understanding and internalizing the principles of sustainability. This is where the magic happens, where awareness evolves into a mindset shift that becomes ingrained in our daily lives. But how do we ensure this transition? It's not just a fleeting moment, but a sustained journey. That's where mentoring, guiding, teaching, and training come into play. Green skilling in particular is the key to equipping individuals with practical know-how to implement sustainable practices. It's about providing people with the right credentials, empowering them to make informed choice and contribute meaningfully to a sustainable future. And here is the exciting part. We are not just talking about theoretical concepts. We are introducing an advanced course that goes beyond awareness, beyond rhetoric. This course has the capacity to facilitate a steady transition towards a circular economy and society. It's not just an educational endeavor, it's a pathway to real-world tangible change. I want to leave you with this thought. Education is not just a tool for personal growth. It's a catalyst for societal transformation. It's a beacon guiding us towards a future where sustainability, it's not just a buzzword, but a way of life. Join us in recognizing the incredible potential of education, in empowering individuals to embrace a circular economy, and in collectively creating a society that thrives on sustainable practices. Thank you, and back to you, Massimo.
Thanks a lot. It's becoming quite a nice game, right? Passing the ball back and forth. Thank you very much for the words on design, for the words of the importance of education, right? We know that majority of the problems of this planet are probably they probably have the roots in the ignorance that we have. And even if we know a lot, we're still ignorant about something. Well, let's touch on the third topic highlighted by the report by UNCTAD, which is the topic of investment and financial support for entrepreneurship. And we have Jose Antonio Sanchez, which is Associated and Economic Affairs Officer at UNCTAD. He specializes in supporting countries to craft national strategies for entrepreneurial development, precisely. He introduces the theme, and well, I give you the floor, Jose, so you can just continue saying better than me.
Thank you, Massimo. Thank you, Julia, as well. And well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone that is following online. Maybe let me start by reminding us that circular economy at a macro level responds to the need of decoupling economic growth from the use of natural resources. In this sense, circular economy can help tackle the three planetary crises that we are currently facing, which are climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. Climate change by reducing emissions of greenhouse gases through, for example, using low carbon circular materials, like, for example, recycled aluminum, which uses or which emits 95% less carbon dioxide than aluminum from virgin sources. Biodiversity loss by the expansion of regenerative practices and by reducing the demand of virgin materials thanks to reusing, for example. And pollution by expanding the lifespan of products and by improving the eco and circular design of products so that components can be recycled, reused, or reintegrated into nature after the useful life of a product. Having said that, the circular economy framework is emerging fast globally as governments and companies increasingly recognize the need. And entrepreneurs can play a catalytic role in driving the transformation towards circularity. As agents of innovation, they are willing to introduce new products, new services, new methods of production, and new business models by identifying opportunities. Entrepreneurs and SMEs, small, medium, and enterprises, can have a huge impact in the transition. Collectively, they account for more than 50% of global greenhouse emissions and represent 90% of all businesses worldwide. And at the end of the day, the big challenge is not just about investing in perfectly circular companies or divesting from extractive ones, but about engaging and encouraging all companies in every industry to make the transition. So while there is a growing trend of circular initiatives globally, multiple factors still limit entrepreneurial innovations and the advance towards a circular economy, especially in developing countries, let's say. And one of these factors that prevent the entrepreneurs is that they often struggle with limited access to finance. So unlocking financing opportunities in the circular economy requires the mobilization of capital flows towards investments that prioritize environmental sustainability and specifically circular economy. For this, we need a new set of financial instruments, and I will divide this in two groups. First is the role of the private sector, the financing that can play towards the change towards sustainable finance. This implies changing the role of investors by just taking profitability as their main objective, and involves incorporating the environmental impacts into investing practices, and embracing also longer-term investment periods, the so-called patient finance, for example. We are talking here about private sustainability funds, sustainability bonds, and introducing in financial private markets a preference for funding circular initiatives. In this area, promoting transparency is key to advance in this emerging sustainable finance taxonomies that allows us to refine definitions and metrics, and which in the end will help scale the contribution of financial institutions to the topic. These taxonomies and transparency can also encourage venture capital, risk capital, and business angels to enter circular economy as investors. The second group would be the public sector. Obviously, the public sector needs to play a central role through many areas. One is improving regulation, like, for example, the extended producer's responsibility or the recycled content targets in products, but also by reviewing tax-based incentives. Subsidies and taxes need to be reformed and repurposed so that, for example, the price of virgin plastics is, or virgin natural resources is not cheaper than that of recycled plastics or natural resources. Governments can create public funds to finance circular entrepreneurs and initiatives, which can include, for example, the creation of circular economy funds, facilitating small entrepreneurs with loans, with grants, with credit guarantees, with insurance or seed capital, but also by promoting funding for R&D, research and development, and innovation, which is very much linked to the nature of circular economy at this moment in time. Another interesting instrument is blended finance, which by co-investing in projects can stimulate a crowding in effect from the private sector to finance these projects. Last but not least, I would also like to mention the use of procurement policies, which can implement a change by looking for the cheapest to choosing the clean, the green, the resilient goods and services, because these policies, these procurement policies, given the size of the budgets, can move markets and can move production and stimulate investment. All these possibilities work in the end towards the fact of de-risking the investment in circular economy, what at the end of the day will contribute to the big push that is needed at this moment. With this, I finish, and I hope I know we will have good contributions and discussions. And I think you will share with us, hopefully, some ideas and multiple ways to how to go towards this transition to circularity, which is what we all want in the end for the climate and for biodiversity. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I see you're already receiving questions in the chat and all that. So feel free also to start connecting and answering over there. And actually, the next panelist also is addressing something related, of course, to financing for the energy transition. And for this case, you have to excuse us and cope with it because she's going to speak in Spanish. We have the translation of her contribution that will be pasted in the chat. This was a last minute change. So Cristina Moratalla, she's the co-founder of the Salvadoran Women in Energy Council and the Innovation Center for Science Technology for Latin America and the Caribbean. Cristina is developing the content for a diploma on mobility as a service and electric mobility in circular economy and is one of the expert collaborators of the Kilómetro Circular. Cristina, ahí estás.
Hola, buenos días.
Perfecto, buenos días. Sigue adelante. Julia va a copiar en el chat tu contribución traducida al español, al inglés.
Buenos días, un verdadero placer estar acá con ustedes compartiendo. Estoy muy complacida de escucharles todas las aportes y las contribuciones que se han podido vivir durante toda la mañana. Así que es mi momento de compartir y pues deseo comenzar diciendo que el aporte del kilómetro circular, desde mi punto de vista, es un proyecto que permite dar un crecimiento al conjunto de los elementos de sostenibilidad que pueden ser aplicados de forma completa por todas las comunidades. Desde mi ámbito profesional y basándome en la experiencia de la producción de energía limpia que se vive en El Salvador y que estoy segura que puede replicarse en diferentes países de la región latinoamericana a través de los sistemas solares fotovoltaicos, puedo validar la urgente necesidad de crear más oportunidades de instalar proyectos de este tipo en las comunidades, en nuestras ciudades, en nuestra intención de avanzar hacia un desarrollo sostenible. Los países de la región latinoamericana estamos avanzando en la generación distribuida. Esto surge como una verdadera necesidad de atender las posturas internacionales sobre la transición energética justa, vinculados directamente con los procesos de descarbonización del planeta y que también contribuyen de forma significativa en todos los ahorros de los consumos energéticos de forma convencional que podamos tener. Desde el punto de vista del kilómetro circular, se puede tener un aprovechamiento con las estructuras de montaje para los sistemas solares fotovoltaicos, no solamente para la generación solar, sino que también pueden ser utilizados para la captación de aguas lluvias, entre otros procesos que se van a favorecer todo lo que equivale a la sostenibilidad. Nos encontramos frente a la triple crisis planetaria, en la que la preocupación por el cambio climático, la pérdida de la biodiversidad y la actual conocida ebullición del planeta deben ser parte urgente de nuestras agendas para las estrategias 2024. No podemos continuar actuando de forma pasiva. Se requiere un alto compromiso. El proyecto del kilómetro circular debería ser tomado de manera de ejemplo en los diseños urbanísticos futuros. Necesitamos economías circulares, sostenibles y que garanticen el fiel cumplimiento de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible para estar mitigando los efectos de esta crisis mundial. De parte mía, de mi persona, en lo personal, que represento a la empresa también Big Power, estamos velando fielmente por acompañar a las empresas en estos proyectos de estrategias sostenibles empresariales y que puedan ser aplicadas de una forma medible, verificable y sobre todo garantizando resultados deseados en esta agenda 2030, ¿verdad? Que ya estamos a poco tiempo de que se ejecute este periodo y pues obviamente cumpliendo con los acuerdos que también se han establecido en la COP28. Agradezco totalmente esta participación para este evento y pues quedo a sus apreciables órdenes.
Perfecto. Muchas gracias, Cristina. And for those that were asking in the chat about the translation was being pasted in the chat, but don't worry, because in the report that will be sent to everybody, we have it transcribed in English. So everybody will receive it. Let me check a little moment on the timing. We are on the 18th, yeah. And then I think we are lucky to have also Dorothea Tomassos from Greece, is an expert in maritime law and international finance, but also an entrepreneur. She's the founder and CEO of EcoWave Dynamics. EcoWave Dynamics is quite an interesting approach to energy, another renewable, probably even perpetual energy. She's preparing to create a new kilometer circular living lab in Icaria, the island that has the highest wave and wind power potential in the Aegean Sea, besides having the oldest population in the Mediterranean. It's the place where people live the longest, as if I know correctly. So Dorothea, tell us a little bit more of what you are doing.
Hello, thank you so much for the opportunity. First of all, we're a small company who are developing and have developed a technology that uses wave power to create energy. And I would second Christina in the comments that she made. Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly with what you had to say. And I'd like to add a few comments from our experiences in relation to, number one, trying to implement the goals that we're talking about, but number two, the perspective that people have towards energy. First of all, I think that one of the things that's needed is not just an education about circular economies, but I think we need to make people understand the value of electricity in the first place, because it is one of the things that underlines all circular economies and underlines our daily life and our ability to live on the planet. And when we talk about the renewable energy sources, I think there's very much a misunderstanding of what it is that we can achieve and how we should go about achieving that. When, for example, we implement a project, the first thing that people say to us is, well, your capability isn't the same as the capability of the, in inverted commas, dirty fossil fuels that are being implemented at the moment. And that's true. Renewable energy doesn't give you the same capability that we had under the old regime. And that's because we're dealing with nature. We don't have sunlight all day long. The waves don't go out of control all day long. So we also have to learn how to curb the way that we use electricity and appreciate more what it is that electricity does for us and how we can learn to work with it in nature. I think that's a very important part in the circularity argument that is sometimes forgotten. And then another point in terms of manufacturing, I again truly understand that circularity comes from the design point right through to the end of the life of a product. And yet at the moment, when we include circularity in the design stage, it's actually costing us more money than what it's making for us at the moment. So maybe something to be thought of in the context of this talk is subsidizing the use of a circularity engineer during the design phase of a project in the manufacturing, in the design of it and in the manufacturing, because I think that that would help to encourage companies to design for a circular economy. And the other point about that is that often there's a misconception that sustainability is equal to circularity. And we come up against that too. For example, we have companies that compete for funding, and they say that they're sustainable. But when you look at the products that they're using for sustainability, let's say they're putting a product into the market to create renewable energy from wind, the reality is that the materials that they're using to create those products are not at all circular and therefore are not sustainable. So maybe there needs to be a little bit of more thought given to what equals circular and doesn't equal sustainable, or vice versa. So those are just some of my thoughts on these points, and I hope it's useful. Thank you.
Extremely useful, and that I feel a resonance to what we were listening before about the production of food. That production of food has to be distributed and localized, and then and we have the same situation with energy, right? And we have to follow similar criteria. For the sake of time, I remind everybody that if, especially, I know we have a few economists, we have a few interesting people in the crowd, that if they can stay in the networking session where we'll have the open conversation, that would be fantastic, because I am sure there are opinions and questions and suggestions by everybody. So, because we have gotten almost to the end of the official part, and we finish with a call to action. And the call to action, we have Nadia Abdul Latif, which is the president of the Malaysian Rare Disorder Society and the head of strategy, programs and partnership for the Go to Impact Foundation. And they're preparing to establish also a new kilometer circular living lab in Indonesia. And I also saw that Idan is online, and I hope Idan has the chance to remain also for the networking session. And for now, I give the floor to Nadia for the call to action.
Hi, good evening, good morning, and salam semangat, as we say here in Indonesia and Malaysia. It's sometimes challenging being the last speaker, having heard so many inspiring sessions and so many inspiring interventions. And I hope that what I aim to do in the next few minutes is to perhaps provide some context about who are we actually building this future for? Who are we actually trying to solve for? What are we trying to get at? And where is this trajectory that we say when we say leaving no one behind? So perhaps I may take a step back and talk about the fact that today, as we all know, we stand at the cusp of time. The choices that we make are pivotal at this moment and will not only determine the trajectory of our lives, but more profoundly, the path that we chart for generations to come. In Southeast Asia alone, if you look at Malaysia, Malaysia is an aging population, whereas Indonesia is heading towards a boom population. Just two neighbors that have almost very different trajectory in just the next 5 to 10 years or so. So now more than ever before, we see our lives and our futures intertwined. And as I represent two organizations, I hope you give me a bit of a time indulgence to explain to you the context of why what we're doing for circular economy and for circularity is not just important for the economy and everything else that we're trying to do for the environment, but how deep an impact it would have on the vulnerable populations whose lives depend on our choices today and in future. So the organization that I represent in Indonesia talks about building innovation ecosystems, trying to tackle complex challenges, stubborn challenges that has been around for decades and years through what we call local berdaya, the understanding of using local wisdoms and injecting that with the understanding of circular economy principles and innovation-based understanding to look at solutions that are not always high-tech, but have deep meaning for the community. Therefore, there is what Zanja was mentioned earlier, mindset transformation, behavioral change, and a longer lasting impact. At the same time, in Malaysia, I'm pushing for universal health coverage, for equity and rights for persons living with disability, and in particular, living with rare diseases for not only the country, but in the region and beyond. And I bet you my last 20 cents, and quite a lot of people here have never heard of rare diseases before, and we'll be very happy to share with you later. But let's pause for a while and think about how these two things actually intertwine. If we are truly to say that we are catalysts of change, then we have to understand that we're also architects of the change that we want to make. And we hold power not only to shape the future that transcends the trials that we have today, but what I always tell the families and the patient groups that we have in Malaysia is that our voice is a force and our abilities a catalyst for transformation, if I were to take some of the points from Zanya. So if I were to give you a little bit of a context, so we know who we're actually trying to solve for in the context of vulnerable populations, the WHO and the World Bank has already estimated that 15% of the world's population, which is over 1 billion people, ladies and gentlemen, are actually living with some form of disability. Layer that with rare diseases that affect over 300 million individuals globally, 72% of that are children. How many of these are actually in Andres's population or in Ellen's courses that you're doing? Layer that again with climate crisis, poor political will, global economic systems that are predicated on the fallacy that more is better. And combine all this together, it feels like we're actually having a recipe for disaster. However, at the face of heightened health inequities, disproportionate affecting vulnerable communities, and we know that for a lot of families, over 90% of those facing that dual burden reside in developing countries, countries such as my own, where accessing to basic healthcare becomes an uphill battle. What more the issues of clean environment or a sustainable civilization that we want to build? And if we're talking about sustainable livelihoods, in which that was brought up earlier by one of the esteemed speakers, we know that the ILO has already done a rough study that the global cost of exclusion of people living with disabilities in the labor market is estimated at around 7 trillion USDs just in terms of GDP. So what are we doing about it? In Malaysia and Indonesia, in fact, the whole of Southeast Asia, organizations from all walks of life are taking the charge. We haven't fully figured out how to solve a lot of the problems, but we know that accessing problems or tackling issues in silos are not going to be the way to solve any of it. Back home, we have this word called gotong royong, which basically means working together to solve a complex challenge. Now, in Malaysia, through the Malaysian Rare Disorders Society, we're working together with all layers of stakeholders, from the government to pharma to academia to social entrepreneurs, in trying to figure out what are some of the best ways to optimize patient journeys, to increase universal health coverage, to in fact even inject circular economy principles in understanding where people with vulnerabilities would be able to have jobs with dignity, SDG 8, access to affordable and sustainable and precision health medicine. And of course, at the end of the day, looking at ways to, very bluntly, increase human potential and eliminate untimely death. At the same time, in Indonesia, through the organization that I'm working with, as you can see at the back, it's called Go to Impact Foundation. We have a flagship Catalyst ecosystem, which we call Catalyst Changemakers Ecosystem, and Idan will be very happy to share with you more on that. We have a methodology which we call Local Berdaya, in which now we have 6 pilot projects in 6 different provinces in Indonesia. It's in Lampung, Semarang, Bali, Labuan Bajo, Makassar, and Lake Toba. We work alongside more than 88 different changemaker organizations, over 300 different partners in our ecosystem, ranging from startups, government, VCs, civil societies, academicians, because we believe that in each innovation ecosystem, you need all of these archetypes together, from the academia to the policymakers, to the amplifiers, to the implementers, to the local government, to the people on the ground, all the way down to the child that is going to be the beneficiary of whatever it is that you're doing. And the voices of the young really do matter. And while we're trying to tackle these issues, we're looking at it from a locations-based approach. So in Indonesia, what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at the issue of localizing issues that tackle access to clean water supply, solving the issue of waste, looking at championing circularity, enabling micro-entrepreneurs, doing behavioral change, sustainable tourism, all from that community approach, and looking at local wisdom. And Zanja said, knowledge transfer, we call it knowledge fusion. How do you actually not only just transfer the information that's there, but also have deep respect to the local cultures and the local wisdoms that are actually already there, just needs to be documented and amplified. So today,
thank you very much. Thank you very much,
is
Nader.
to do stuff together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nader. I hope I did not interrupt too much. We are just a couple of minutes over time, so we have to complete the formal part of this side event. I'm going to give the floor to Lorenzo Tassini from UNCTAD to do an official conclusion, but please stay on for the networking part. Lorenzo.
Thank you, Julia. I'd like first to thank AlterContacts for this second time partnering with UNCTAD in organizing such a wonderful online session under the ECOSOC Partnership Forum. We are very pleased of this collaboration. I would like to thank all the speakers for the interesting insights in their projects, initiatives, sharing their thoughts, their views on circular economy. It's like, I was thinking, it's like attending a nice social gathering where you meet a lot of people, but you only have a couple of minutes to learn from them, and then you would like to know more about what they are doing, and you plan to meet them again another time and have maybe 30 minutes, an hour to go deep into the discussion. Thanks to all the speakers for their contributions, and also to participants for staying longer than expected and listening to all these interesting stories. I'd like just to close and mention a couple of takeaways that I gather from this discussion, from this conversation, if you allow me. First of all is the role of innovation in circular economy. Innovation is key. It transpired from all your testimonies. Innovation in the cases that we listened is stemming from collaborations with academia. That's a very important player in circular economy. Third is entrepreneurship plays a key role. Entrepreneurs are the central actors in promoting innovation in circular economy. They are the ones taking risks. They are the ones looking for funds. They are the ones liaising with academia, with researchers, with investors, with the markets. We haven't mentioned much about the role of consumers, but it's extremely important to educate and raise awareness of circular economy choices for consumers if we want to go that way. Another very important point that we mentioned, and it emerged during this discussion, is the community-based approaches. We listened from very important aspects of starting little, a bottom-up approach. So we explore how interactions can work in limited labs, living labs, as you mentioned. Now, of course, the challenge is how to scale that up at the urban or city context, and then moving on to the national level. So that's a very important aspect that policymakers need to be aware of. Finally, the role of policies. I had the opportunity to see and to read some exchanges in the chat, and there's always this dilemma. Is it better to work on taxes or to incentives? What is the best approach? That's the answer is it depends. It depends on the context. It depends on the situation, on the economic context of a country. There's no one-size-fits-all solution for this type of questions, but it's something that policymakers need to take care of when trying to design the right mix of policy measures that can facilitate the adoption of circular business models and circular economy. So that's, in a nutshell, is what I gather from this conversation. Thank you very much again for your contributions, and thank you very much to AlterContacts for proposing this interesting partnership and discuss a very important topic such as circular economy and SDGs.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo. This has been really a wonderful summary of everything that's been discussed. And I completely subscribe to what you said, that you hear 3 minutes of somebody speaking, but you really want to have a longer conversation, ask questions, discover more about specific areas of circular economy. Well, I'm just very thankful to everybody who participated today with this wonderful conclusion from Lorenzo. The formal part of the event and the virtual side event to the United Nations ECOSOC Partnership Forum 2024 is officially complete.